I don't even know how to describe it. It's unbelievable, unfathomable.
Complete devastation. I've been up there, I've seen it.
It not only destroys the community, it destroys the water.
Just completely annihilates the flora and fauna.
So all you've got to do is stand on the edge and breathe the air, and you can tell that there's something going on.
We've just obliterated one of the most advanced ecosystems in the world.
It has the implications to be more serious over time than incidents like the Exxon Valdez or 3 Mile Island.
And my God, it's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. We owe it to the planet, we owe it to the Creator to try to stop this. And we're bound and determined to stop it.
What a legacy we're leaving for the next generation. They're going to look back on us.
You can't put a mountain back. Do you think you can do a better job than God?
It's time for us to stand up. Yes. And it's time for every community to stand up and say, hey, we're tired. We're fed up with you telling us that everything's going to be okay.
Massey Energy wants to destroy these mountains forever. We can get what we need through solar and wind power. And we can have jobs instead of for 5 years or 6 years on this mountain. We can have jobs forever, forever. And plus, we can have electricity forever. Doesn't that sound a lot better than blowing up a mountain and never being able to ginseng or hunt on that mountain again?
I oppose permit number S302805. This is not coal mining. This is the rape of Appalachia.
Don't brush me off like that. I lost my home and almost lost my life.
Not brushing you off. We've been here. We've heard you. You've been very patient. We appreciate you coming.
You've been patient.
Yes.
Did you lose your home in a flood?
No, sure did.
Don't tell me about patience, mister. Job would be proud of us. Go ahead. Be on your merry way. But you remember one thing. When the floods happen and the dead bodies are racking up, you share responsibility with the companies.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again.
I'm the Cabinet Secretary for the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, and I was appointed by Governor Manchin. We oversee the Surface Mine Control Reclamation Act, we oversee the Clean Water Act, we oversee the Clean Air Act on the state level. You know, mountaintop mining today is a lawful practice. If it were tomorrow to be an unlawful practice, I wouldn't allow it, regardless of my opinion on it one way or another.
So what do I think about the DEP? In one sentence, I would like to see them totally disbanded. I think they are a waste of the taxpayers' money. I think that they are, if not 100%, 99.999% in favor of the companies.
The environmental costs are enormous. There have been 7 periods of flash flooding in Appalachia since the late 1990s that have resulted in damage to thousands, tens of thousands of homes.
But the water was so violent, it was so fast.
Because all the trees are removed from the surface areas, everything downstream then is subject to flash floods.
Plainly and simply put, mining does not cause flooding. Severe rainfall causes flooding.
All of that water, sludge, rock and debris came down the hollow, and people just literally had to run for their lives. And I could go on and on about what we lost, but I don't remember. Did you see that? I hope your camera picked that up. That was A.T. Massey shooting.
Blasts go off every day that may be a quarter mile long and 30 feet wide. The Earth's reduced to rubble, and that's all for the next 24 hours, picked up and moved and dumped into valleys, trying to get down to that coal.
The coal was actually removed and processed. Maybe 500 to 600 feet of the top of the mountain will be removed, and the rock and soil then dumped into the valleys and streams below, and those are called valley fills.
They don't make Nerf bulldozers. Bulldozers are made to move earth. I mean, the active site's an industrial site. We're harvesting energy for the state and for the world. The impacts are temporary, and you come back in just a couple of months and see the area and the regrading and the revegetation and the wildlife habitat that's created, and often instances a commercial or industrial development will begin to go up.
You can't take the coal out, put the mountain back exactly the way you found it, and move on.
But when you just simply take the rubble from the top of a mountain and dump it into a valley, you have ruined that valley, obviously, and buried the stream. But you've also kept any future generations from being able to develop that site, because it's just unstable land that's never going to be useful for anything.
And we do have a lot of developable land in southern West Virginia. Where is the development? And I can't answer that.
Nobody's ever going to build anything on those. You put a parking lot on it, within a few years it's starting to crack up.
The bottom line, where I think mistakes have been made in the past, is that there was no proper planning, what we call post-mine land use. And if there's no post-mine land use, then if you went ahead and mined it strictly for the coal, then you had to put it back to contour. You had to vegetate it.
The trees won't grow on the top of the valley fills because they haven't evolved to grow on this. They've evolved to grow on this. And so you've changed the ecosystem so much that the ancestral forest will never return. It can't.
I think people believe that you're taking a mountain from here clear onto the ground, making it flat. Doesn't happen. Basically, they can put it back to make it look like a mountain.
We truly rebuild mountains here in West Virginia.
About roughly 2,000 miles of stream channels have been filled in with valley fills in Appalachia. And the long-term effects are the upper reaches of the streams are dead. And then downstream from that are accumulations of sediment, heavy metals in the water.
When you break the rock and you expose these elements to oxygen and water, then you allow these elements to be released into the environment at a much more rapid pace. And that causes some water quality impacts. So that's an issue that we are concerned about, and that's an issue that we regulate.
Now, has your water, always been pretty good? We're just looking at metals. We're not looking at organics, or so these tests come back negative doesn't mean everything's okay, but just another step towards getting, figuring out if your water's good to drink or not. Well, we don't. 97.9%, and pH is 4.86. It all starts up in the headwater streams in the Appalachians. You can't say, if you live in the eastern United States, that you're not linked to what's going on in southern West Virginia and eastern Kentucky. You are. It's your water supply. It's the most critical thing in the human or any other animal's life cycle.
So the situation in West Virginia in the Mud River system is at the brink. It's at the toxic threshold, and just a little bit more can push it over the edge, and those fisheries will essentially collapse.
I just have a different opinion on that that's founded in fact and science. Mountains are not destroyed. Water systems are not destroyed here in West Virginia.
The deformed fish, that is really your smoking gun. That is the cause effect, that's the red flag. Once you see that, you really do have a serious situation.
I mean, that almost sounds like a researcher that's getting into the political debate. He says that the Mud River Reservoir is on the brink of a major catastrophic toxic event. Frankly, it's not. It is a thriving fishery. So he's wrong, clearly wrong.
When it gets down to the true politics, you know, he's accused me of being a politician, but the politics lie on their side and how they act or don't act in terms of protecting the environment. All I'm here for is to speak for the benefit of fish and wildlife. They can't protect themselves. They don't have a voice in this whole issue. So that is my role, really, my ethical and professional responsibility as a research scientist with 30 years of experience in what selenium does and how it acts in the environment.
I've seen this water so black, the color of it, and a skim that looks like if you throw a match on there, it would catch on fire. My grandparents lived here, and great-grandparents lived here. So it's been handed down. This is the only place that's left. If you take an aerial shot, you'll see that this is the only place. Everything else we're surrounded by the strip mines.
See, this was all a holler up through here. We'd come up through here and ginseng, go up in these woods and.
This is a beautiful place right in here. Right through here, this was all so pretty.
There's no way they could put it back the way it was.
The Mud River ecosystem is a symbol. That is a symbol and a sentinel. It's an indicator, and it's an indicator of what we can expect to see on a much broader scale in other areas if the pollution from mountaintop removal mining isn't controlled.
If you would go up in an airplane, an aerial shot, all you would see was a little clump of green here, and the rest of it is strip mines. So we're just kind of in a little bowl, a strip mining bowl.
Strip away, big D9 dozer, coming for to bury my home. I'm getting madder as you're getting closer, coming for to bury my home. The whole history of SMACRA has been exactly as I predicted, that the pressures of the coal industry have weakened it.
Here in West Virginia, we perhaps have the most stringent law and regulations that are not only protective of the environment, but also protective of local citizens.
The industry is in flagrant violation of the Clean Water Act and the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, key provisions regarding water and the protection of the environment.
We all love this state. We want to do everything we can to make sure that we preserve what we have and make it better. And we're all environmentalists.
Let me tell you where I think the state can go. I think we are on the brink. I believe that we can be a world leader in energy.
But the fact of life and the reality is 50% of the energy for the United States comes from coal. You can't keep the country running without it and be competitive in a global economy. If those are the facts, then shouldn't we all, and especially the federal government, come to the realization that we've got to use what we have?
Excuse me. Stop that kind of talk and that rhetoric. That's what happened in 1977 when we got the Surface Mine Control Reclamation Act, and that is what gave them the vehicle to do mountaintop removal. Stop talking that crap.
But I do hear that all the time. I hear, they're impacting our mountains. Well, they're not our mountains. Those mountains have been bought. I suspect every mountain in our state's for sale if somebody wants to buy it and just preserve it.
Right or wrong, we live in a capitalistic society. It's a capitalistic democracy. Government doesn't make those kinds of decisions for companies or for property owners.
The coal companies we have now, they do not care for the community. They do not care for the people. It's simply for the money, period. With no thought of tomorrow or yesterday.
And I really think that they want to see this place here as a 40-mile-long landfill with all the people gone. And I don't think they care how the people leave.
Well, I don't know why they would want to stop mountaintop mining, and I don't know how it quite gets to that point where the mere existence of this form of mining is threatened.
Judy and I were talking, I go, I wonder how much explosives they're setting off. She goes, I don't know. So I called it DEP. And it come up, at that time it was 3 million pounds. Today, I went and looked at it recently, it's more like 3.5 million pounds per day. Think about that. I'm hoping that Obama's administration will step in, but I think what could happen is that people, and this is historic. I mean, history tells us this. This is nothing new. When people get fed up, what do people do? They revolt. There's a civil uprising, and that's what they're forcing people to do. I'll put it this way. If the federal government doesn't stop this, the citizens will.
Burning all fossil fuels would destroy the future of young people and the unborn.
You're going to have to go to jail to stop mountains from being destroyed.
Thank you, everybody, for standing up for the kids, standing up for the mountain.
It does affect you. You are affected by mountaintop removal mining. We are not only putting a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, which is obviously changing our global climatic conditions, but we're also burying one of the most productive forests in the world, one very capable of capturing and sequestering carbon. And then the other thing we're doing is we are ruining your next generation's water supply.
I don't want to think that in my generation, we allowed this to happen. What do you tell your grandchildren? We used to have clean water. We used to be able to drink it out of the creek. We used to be able to go up that holler. Well, there's not a holler there now, but we used to be able to go up here and pick berries. You know what? How can you justify that to your grandkids if you don't try to stop something like mountaintop removal?
I just can't believe this is happening, and that people think that communities, whole communities are expendable, and whole ecosystems are expendable, just so they can have cheap electricity. We can't keep doing this. It's the opposite spectrum from sustainable. It's so unsustainable. We've so got to do something else. Alternative energy is not an alternative. It's the next thing, and if we don't do it, we're not going to survive as a species. The planet will still be here. Other species will survive. We're just not going to be part of the picture. It's self-destructive behavior. And there's no other species on the planet, really, that has self-destructive behavior. Only Homo sapiens could do that. The ones with the big brain.
You can't put a mountain back. Do you think you can do a better job than God?
It's time for us to stand up. And it's time for every community to stand up and say, hey, we're tired. We're fed up.
Virgin, you've been very patient. We appreciate your time.
You've been patient. Did you lose your home in a flood?
Sure did.
Don't tell me about patience, mister. Joe would be proud of us. Go ahead, be on your merry way. But you remember one thing, when the floods happen and the dead bodies are racking up, you share responsibility with the companies.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again.
I'm the Cabinet Secretary for the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, and I was appointed by Governor Manchin. We oversee the Surface Mine Control Reclamation Act, we oversee the Clean Water Act, we oversee the Clean Air Act on the state level. You know, mountaintop mining today is a lawful practice. If it were tomorrow,
I don't even know how to describe it. It's unbelievable, unfathomable.
Complete devastation. I've been up there, I've seen it.
It not only destroys the community, it destroys the water.
Just completely annihilates the flora and fauna.
So all you've got to do is stand on the edge and breathe the air, and you can tell that there's something going on.
We've just obliterated one of the most advanced ecosystems in the world.
It has the implications to be more serious over time than incidents like the Exxon Valdez or 3 Mile Island.
And my God, it's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. We owe it to the planet, we owe it to the Creator to try to stop this. And we're bound and determined to stop it.
What a legacy we're leaving for the next generation. They're going to look back on us.
You telling us that everything's going to be okay?
Massey Energy wants to destroy these mountains forever. We can get what we need through solar and wind power. And we can have jobs instead of for 5 years or 6 years on this mountain. We can have jobs forever, forever. And plus, we can have electricity forever. Doesn't that sound a lot better than blowing up a mountain and never being able to ginseng or hunt on that mountain again?
I oppose permit number S302805. This is not coal mining. This is the rape of Appalachia.
Don't brush me off like that. I lost my home and almost lost my life.
Not brushing you off. We've been here.